if you get any kind of mulch that has much pecan in it, and you can ask for mulches that have more hardwood materials, especially pecan in them, they tend to be a much blacker, much darker mulch. Cedar tends to be somewhat grayer, but golly, you know, what you can always do if the mulch becomes a little bit less attractive is go back and just put a very thin layer of a new mulch on top, or sprinkle a thin layer of compost on top. Typically the worst looking mulches and the mulches that wash away and blow away are the bark mulches. The shredded mulches, which tend to be stringier, more fibrous, those are the ones that are going to stay in place better, whether it is from leaf blower action or whether it's from rain action. So try to look for a shredded mulch. Go out to one of these material yards and go through and grab a handful out of every pile of mulch they've got. And the stringier and more fibrous it is, the better it's going to stay in place. Yes?
When you were talking about watering for new trees and everything, do you recommend any type of like a circling the tree with a drip circulation? And then
it's a nice thing to do, but drip hoses plug up with calcium in our water so quickly. You do need to spread the water around over the whole root zone. How you do that?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Just moving the hose from place to place.
Just moving the hose from place to place. Another thing, not real attractive, but it's something that is very effective, is get some of the old plastic buckets. I know they sell them down at Home Depot, or if you know a restaurant, they get mayonnaise and pickles and everything else in those plastic buckets.
5-gallon things?
Yeah, get somebody to give you 6 or 8 or 10 of those things, and what you do is take your drill and drill, you know, 6 or 8 little bitty holes, 1/8-inch diameter holes in the bottom, and set them out there and fill them with water. It's probably going to take 30 minutes for that water to drain out, and it's going to all soak in that one place where you put it. You sit there with a hose like this, and 80% of it is going down, hopefully not into the street or whatever else. But a bucket with some 1 or more tiny little holes drilled in the bottom is the best way to slow water. And I hate to say it, but you know, you look around some new trees in my landscape, there's a big plastic bucket or two sitting next to them. I don't want to go around, I don't want to stand there and water for 30 minutes, but if I fill that bucket up in 30 seconds, it's going to do the watering for me for the next 30 minutes.
Could you dig the hole and just put the bucket in the hole?
No, I'd rather be watering from the top down.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you suggest a landscape other than grass, you know, some kind of ground cover that little puppy dogs can run on?
Little puppy dogs?
They're medium size, about 30 pounds.
That's not little puppy dogs. Give the dogs an area to run. Either put in some flagstone for the dogs to run on. They probably would rather run on that. Or, you know, create a run for them with the decomposed granite that we've got over here.
So the decomposed granite is okay on their
Oh,
patch
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And then, depending on like, probably dwarf monkey grass is fairly tolerant to some 4-footed traffic. Asiatic jasmine's
they're not
probably
very destructive.
yet. No, give them a path to walk on. You know, you walk on the sidewalk, you don't walk on your grass. Give the dogs the opportunity to do the same thing. Yes,
I stupidly put cypress mulch in all my planting beds. What's the best way to convert it over to decent
just
mulch?
throw some compost on it.
Put compost and don't rake it out.
No, not
Just
worth it.
throw
Yeah.
some ladybug compost
Yeah.
on top. About an inch.
Half an inch probably, and then do it again in 6 months. It's like going to the store and saying, gosh, I bought hamburger and I meant to get prime rib. You know, don't throw the hamburger away, eat it, and then go buy your prime rib. Cypress mulch has the physical attributes that we want it to have, just not a lot of the other good
Lasts
things.
forever. That's why I got it.
Sounds good. Okay, work my way back around, yes ma'am.
Is it normal for the low-pot trees to lose so many dark, hard leaves?
If they're getting too dry.
Oh, is that one?
Loquats are fairly shallow rooted, and in a drought like this, if you're not watering deeply and frequently, they're going to drop lots of leaves. Personal experience there, my aunt and uncle up in Dallas built a new home, planted a loquat tree on the corner of the home. I have never seen a loquat grow that quickly. It shot up to 15 feet tall, 10 feet wide in the space of 5 years. They had a plumber out, and who got down, it was a pier and beam house, and he got down underneath and he came back up and said to my aunt, said, lady, do you know that no one ever hooked your bathtub into the drainage system?
Oh,
and
no.
for 5 years, every time you take a shower or bath, the water's just running out on the ground underneath your house?
Did you say leave it alone?
Just leave it.
They hooked it up to the sewer system and that loquat dropped half its leaves, stopped growing and everything else. So, yeah, loquats are shallow rooted and like lots of moisture.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did my magnolia tree die? I'll tell you what happened. It was a big, beautiful tree, and all of a sudden, very quickly, the leaves turned brown. We watered and we fertilized, and they kept raining down those brown leaves until finally there wasn't a green leaf on that tree.
Key. Number one, your magnolia's not happy here. Your magnolia, you didn't plant that tree. That tree was there when you moved in. Somebody from Alabama that used to love magnolia trees lived in that house. And they understood that with magnolias, you let the limbs go all the way to the ground because the magnolia wants those limbs shading the soil and keeping it cooler. They probably kept several inches of mulch over the root zone to shade the soil and keep it cooler. They probably watered very regularly and very deeply. They probably put extra iron in the form of green sand and other things on there. They kind of kept that tree on life support long enough for it to get really big. You moved in, maybe you cut the lower limbs off, maybe you didn't. A lot of people do because they think they're in the way. I mean, when you look at a big live oak in South Texas and you see those limbs all the way down on the ground, that's the way nature designed that tree to be. Those limbs are shading the roots and keeping them cooler, and that's why that tree is so big and beautiful. Your magnolia held on as long as it could, and then in effect the root system died on the tree. The top just took a while to die. You can cut a Christmas tree and go stick it in the ground, and it'll look pretty for a while, and then it just all of a sudden falls apart because it's got no roots to support it. And that's what happened to your magnolia. You can grow magnolias here, especially if you live in the south part of town where you've got deep soil, but they do take some special effort. If you're going to grow a magnolia here, if you just love magnolias, get a slow-growing variety that has a smaller root system that doesn't take up such a big area. It's called Little Gem, G-E-M. And you can grow them actually fairly well. Go over to Papados over here. You see some beautiful ones in the landscape around there. But they're not for a xeriscape. Certainly, yes ma'am.
Native Mexican persimmons, are they like mountain laurels? They don't like water and you shouldn't mulch them?
They are very adaptable and very finicky all at the same time. You keep them too dry, they drop all their leaves. You keep them too wet, they drop all their leaves and die. They will take certainly more water than mountain laurels will. But a lot of times people think they're dying when they're really just going through a normal cyclical change. 2 months from now, if we don't get good rains, you go through the hill country, there'll hardly be a leaf on a persimmon up there. And they will sit there and look that way until we get a good rain, and then they'll come back out again. But if you plant grass around them and water them every day, they're going to die. They don't want that much
Well,
water.
like I have a total across about 8 foot with just dirt. Should I put some of that lava sand in there or just leave it dirt?
Lava sand is going to help hold more moisture.
Oh, okay.
So if it's a dry-loving plant, no, that'd be a
Granite
mistake.
sand then? Should I put anything?
Granite
Or
sand,
just leave dirt?
granite sand would mean less mud problems.
Well, it's inside of a rock column.
I wouldn't do
Just
anything.
leave dirt. It seems happy.
A lot of people move into the hill country and try to preserve what's there, and yet they want to create a landscape that looks more tropical. Big mistake. Don't try to save cedar trees. They're going to die on you anyway. If you plant grass and start watering, cedars are going to die. Mesquites may or may not die. Persimmons may or may not. If you like the way they look, leave them alone. Just don't plant any high water use plants around them. But if you like gray bark and kind of the xeriscape look, just do what Mother Nature's done. If it rains, water it. If it doesn't rain, don't water it.
Can you plant a raft as close as, say, 6 feet? I would like to put a row of rafts nearby. But I know you have to water rafts pretty often.
You talking Indian hawthorn,
Indian
Raffulipas?
hawthorns,
Raffulipas need rich soil. They want a lot of compost mixed in, and they want a lot of water.
So they might kill if I water
Probably
them,
would.
I might kill my persimmon.
It would either kill it or make it grow so well that it tried to take over the area.
Like, could you plant them like 20 feet away or
Oh
something?
yeah, probably so. But if you want to save that persimmon, what you want to plant around it is Sinisa, cherry sage, Salvia gregii, plants that like it on the dry side that don't have to have richer soil. Yes?
I have a Christmas tree in a pot and I have a lemon tree in a pot. So any advice on, you said something about Christmas trees. Can you plant that here?
It depends on the kind of tree. If you want to plant a pine tree, you plant what we call a halopensis pine. That's the one, if you look across the street, it's about 60 feet tall over there. If it's any of the other pines, halopensis and Italian stone pine are really the only two pines that are going to do here. Other than that,